Hi, I'm Bonnie Deal. I have a PhD in biochemistry. I love science, and so let's get started. Well, if you're like most humans, over the last many hundreds of years, at least from the Middle Ages or so, you use your gut or what's right or what feels right whenever you're making a decision. You are the authority, you know what is right. You take in all the info you can and you make the best decision. You use all of your resources, of course. For example, if you're deer hunting and you have a scope, well, of course you're going to use it. You're not just go on your gut feeling without using a scope if you have a scope available. In the same vein, if you're a sniper and you can get windage, you're going to use that info. The point I'm trying to make is that whenever possible, we make decisions using all of our resources. And now the resources we have available are phenomenal. Anyone with a cell phone knows this. You can find out most anything through Google and really fast. But we humans are creatures of habit, creatures of comfort, and we are set in our ways. We do not change our minds easily. I have firsthand experience with this every day. I'm a physical science teacher in high school. So my clientele, so to speak, are 15 to 16-year-olds. It is very challenging to get them to change their minds on anything. For example, if I'd say distilled water does not conduct electricity, they would laugh and say, yeah, what about those movies where they throw a toaster in the bathtub and blow a circuit, huh? What about that? So I show them the difference between tap water from the faucet and distilled water. I actually will show them with a conductivity tester. I get a beaker of distilled water, and it does not conduct electricity. And then I add sugar, and it still doesn't conduct electricity. And then finally I add some salt, and sure enough, it does conduct electricity. So H2O, water, is not ionic, doesn't have charged particles, and therefore it does not conduct electricity. So then from there I talk about salts, ionic compounds with positive and negative charges, which do conduct electricity. Another example, definition of boiling, which is when atmospheric pressure equals vapor pressure. And water boils, therefore, at different temperatures at different altitudes. We talk about why it takes longer to make a hard-boiled egg in Denver than down at the New Jersey shore. It's not easy, but I find what works best is showing them phenomenon and have them come up with models and their own explanations. So I'm taking the long way around why I got vaccinated and why I believe there is a COVID pandemic. Okay, so what were my observations? What was the data I used? Well, first of all, I do get a daily newspaper, and the Star Ledger was reporting 300 deaths a night, 280 deaths, 380 deaths per night. So, I mean, maybe it was fake news. So, I had internet, so I did check with the Department of Health, New Jersey, also with the CDC, the Center for Disease Control. I also had friends whose parents were dying from COVID. And then our school that I taught at shut down. So my only conclusion was that there's something bad out there. So I quarantined myself. One of my daughters, who was living at the time in San Francisco. She flew home immediately, and when I picked her up from the Newark airport, she was sobbing. She knew something bad was out there. She wanted to get home, and it was challenging to deal with. So then after that, I quarantined for a long time, and then a vaccine came out, and I chose to get the vaccine. Well, for a couple of reasons. One, I was required to by my job. But two, I'm a scientist, so, I was looking at the research, and it was clear that if you had the vaccine, you were much more protected from a fatality due to COVID-19. Now, vaccines in general have been around for a long time. I remember my mother had 3 children, I think, that suffered from polio. So to her, it was an absolute no-brainer. Of course you would get vaccinated. There was absolutely no question about it. And the data going back many years is that vaccines are pretty dang reliable. They're pretty effective. So I would not question getting vaccinated. Now, there's another argument that people were saying, oh, they really weren't dying from COVID-19, they were dying from something else. And I think to some extent, if you were compromised in some way, you were more susceptible to dying from getting COVID-19. I mean, that's just like if you're not in good health and you get any flu virus, you're at a higher risk. So I don't think that the numbers were distorted when they were saying, 280 deaths a night or 300 deaths a night. I think that was pretty accurate. You were more susceptible if you were compromised in some health way. So all in all, I don't understand why someone would not get vaccinated. So are there going to be side effects? Well, I don't know. The track record for vaccines in general over, 100 years, they have been pretty dang reliable. That no, there have not been side effects. I mean, COVID-19 is not really unique and different than any other virus that we've had to deal with over the years. So I am here to encourage everyone to be careful, quarantine, wear a mask, and get vaccinated. To me, it's no question that you are more protected from suffering and dying from COVID-19 if you have the vaccine. I know we're creatures of comfort. I know it's hard to change our minds, but let's take in all the information that's available to us in making our decisions, just like we would in any circumstance. Go with your gut. I'm not saying, that's where we are in a human development right now, is that, the authority, we're right. We know the customer's always right. So we want to trust our gut, but we wouldn't, say, I'm not going to use that information. Of course, any information, any feedback, or anything that helps us to make the best decision, use. And we do use it. And so for COVID-19, there's a lot of good information out there. So why don't we tap into it and use it? Thank you so much.